A leaked audio recording further cements Donald Trump's well-earned reputation as the dumbest and most corrupt politician in the history of the United States, and may very well seal his fate legally in the upcoming trial against special counsel Jack Smith. Intrigued? Then click that like and subscribe, and enjoy the video. So, I guess I can't speak for everybody, but I imagine this applies to many of you watching, which is that I'm a connoisseur of fiction. I love watching movies and TV shows and reading books about fantasy and science fiction and action, adventure, political dramas, etc. and so forth. And villains are some of the most interesting characters, right? And in politics, like in political thrillers or political dramas, anything where politics is involved, we're used to, in pop culture, seeing the villains as masterminds. For all their awfulness, there's usually like a strategic brilliance to them. Think Emperor Palpatine in Star Wars, or Littlefinger and Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones. But reality is often stranger than fiction. And in the real world, some of the worst people, some of the worst political figures in the history of this country, or in the history of this world, have not been particularly bright. So take Adolf Hitler, right? The classic fascist. Now, certainly he was charismatic, but one of the things that you learn more about Hitler and the Nazi Party when you study World War II is that actually Hitler wasn't a genius. There's plenty of evidence actually to the contrary, that in many ways he was just a particularly charismatic buffoon, which is part of the reason why Germany did so poorly, particularly in the latter half of the war, and some of the worst decisions of the Second World War from a German military perspective, like attacking Russia. That was Hitler, in his strategic stupidity, overriding the advice of his generals. Now, skip across the ocean and fast forward 80 years, and we have another fascist, Donald Trump, who, obviously hasn't gone quite as far as Hitler in many respects, but shares certain, similarities with the Fuhrer, and that is he's an idiot, right? And in case there was any doubt about that, which there shouldn't be at this point, because we've seen Donald Trump in the political spotlight for about 7 years, and he's demonstrated a stupidity and incompetence and corruption that is just truly spectacular, beyond the pale, and has inspired, quite frankly, a new generation of dumb Republican leaders like George Santos. But that aside, in case you're on the fence about whether or not Donald Trump is an idiot, well, CNN is going to break it to you. CNN's just going to drive it home, cement Donald Trump's reputation as the dumbest and most corrupt politician in the history of this country. So as you well know, because we've covered it, Donald Trump has been indicted by special counsel Jack Smith on 38 federal crimes, 37 of which are felonies, and 31 of those charges involve the willful retention of national defense information. And Donald Trump, of course, denied it, lied about it in so many different ways. First, he said he didn't have it. Then he said he did have it, but he was working with the National Archives to give the information back. Then he lied again and said, actually, no, I was entitled to all of it, and it was completely up to me as to whether or not I need to give any of it back. So lie. And it's been debunked again and again and again by even conservative legal scholars who are like, Mr. President, none of this is true. Stop being an idiot. Well, in the indictment, the beautifully detailed indictment that Jack Smith gave that was unsealed a couple of weeks ago, he gave us breakdowns of transcripts of audio recordings in which Donald Trump admitted to having classified national defense information and showing it to unauthorized people when he was no longer president. And a lot of people were like, well, listen, these are just words on paper. We need to hear the recording. Well, the recording was leaked 4 days after the information was given to Trump's own attorneys, which makes you wonder, was it leaked by the Department of Justice? Possibly. But the fact that the Department of Justice had this information and it never leaked until 4 days after Trump and his party was given this information in discovery makes you wonder, perhaps Trump himself stupidly leaked this as well. But I want you to hear the recording because it is utterly damning, both legally and of Trump's intellect and cognitive capability. This guy is so stupid. He is as stupid as he is corrupt, and that's saying something. So let's listen to the recording and hear it straight from the horse's mouth.
Bad, sick people.
That was your coup, against you.
It started right at the beginning.
When Millie's talking about, you were going to try to do a coup. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in.
That's right.
Trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Millie, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran.
With Millie, let me show you an example. Let me, the former president who is not entitled to this information, which concerns the military and national defense, show you an example. And then he lists the particular country involved and shuffles papers. But we're not done yet.
Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look. This was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him.
Wow.
We looked at him. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. It's pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here.
Yeah.
This was presented by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Department of Defense, the Pentagon, which, by the way, is part of their jobs. They come up with contingency plans for military strikes and military plans against potential adversaries. Along the way, this is nothing extraordinary. And he's sharing this information as the former president, with no classification or declassification powers, to journalists, to writers, to novelists, to biographers, also unauthorized personnel. But let's continue.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. But look at this. You attack, and
Hillary would print that out all the time, you know.
she'd send
Private
it.
email.
No, she'd send it to Anthony Weiner.
This is highly confidential. This is secret. This is off the record. This is a man, for all his stupidity and moral turpitude, knows that what he's doing, he should not be doing. That the information he has is classified. It's secret. It's confidential. It's sensitive to the military capabilities of the United States. A, he should not have, and B, he should not be showing to others. This is absolutely, utterly, incontrovertibly damning. But we're still not done. Let's continue.
The pervert. By the way, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just saying, because we were talking about it. And, you know, he said he wanted to attack Iran and what? These are the
You did.
papers.
It's pretty
This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably, right?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify.
figure out
it.
yeah.
See, as president, I could have declassified
Yeah.
it. Now I can't, you know, but this is
Yeah,
classified.
now we have a problem.
Note the words. This is classified. I could have declassified as president, which he is no longer at the time of this recording, but I can't any longer, and it's still a secret. He's saying it's still classified. He could have declassified it once and made it a not secret, but he didn't. It is secret. It is classified, highly confidential, and he shouldn't be sharing it with people, but he's doing it, and he's admitting to doing it on record. Let's continue.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so. We here and I have, and you probably almost didn't believe me, but now you believe me.
No, I believe
It's
you.
incredible, right?
No,
Hey, bring some Cokes in, please.
All right, folks. So again, this is just a completely damning audio clip, right? It's bad enough to read the transcript, and then again, there were holdouts, there were MAGA cultists who said, well, listen, this is just an allegation. We haven't heard the recording. The Department of Justice may not have the recording. Now, that was copium of the highest order, right? Because there was absolutely no way the Department of Justice was going to transcribe it, listed in the indictment, and then, of course, when discovery came and the presentation of evidence go, actually, no, we don't have it. That would be, I mean, the legal consequences for the DOJ would have been beyond compare. So, obviously, they had the damn recording. But a lot of people held out. Well, maybe they're just lying. Maybe they just fudged the transcript. Maybe it's a paraphrasing. No, that's what was in the indictment. So, again, this was leaked 4 days after Trump was given the information in discovery, his attorneys. So it's entirely possible that his camp stupidly decided to leak this. Or it may have been the Department of Justice. We don't know. Now, we do know Donald Trump, in all caps, went on Troth Central, his social media platform, and said, could somebody please explain to the deranged Trump-hating Jack Smith, his family, and his friends that as President of the United States, I come under the Presidential Records Act as affirmed by the Clinton Sox case, not by the psycho's fantasy of the never-used-before Espionage Act of 1917. Again, as a reminder, because we did a video, Number one, he is no longer the president of the United States. Number two, the Presidential Records Act does not give the sitting president or a former president carte blanche to take whatever they want whenever they want. Personal records, which military plans against Iran is most decidedly factually not, don't qualify as personal records, which means this has nothing to do with the Presidential Records Act, and both liberal and conservative legal scholars have been overwhelming in consensus. Donald Trump, this has nothing to do with the Presidential Records Act, you moron. And Smith should be looking at Crooked Joe Biden, instead of Biden, it's Bidden, and all the crimes that he has perpetrated on the American public, including the millions and millions of dollars he extorted from foreign countries. Now, I'll remind you that as of this time, no conclusive evidence has indicated as much against Biden. There have been innuendos, there have been suggestions, but the Republican Party time and time again fails to deliver the goods. They have nothing anywhere close to the kind of evidence that this audio recording from Trump's own mouth constitutes in the case against Trump. The Republicans would probably literally kill for evidence of that nature indicting Biden, but they have nothing even close for it. This is a wild asymmetry. Trump is infinitely dumber and more corrupt than Joe Biden, and that is a fact. And watching Republicans and conservatives try to cope with that fact has been hilarious. Their despair is so gratifying. So I do want to play one clip here when Donald Trump, as you can tell, just withered in chagrin, is asked about this audio recording, and let's hear what he has to say.
And then with your own voice on those recordings.
My voice was fine. What did I say wrong on those recordings? I didn't even see the recording. All I know is I did nothing wrong. We had a lot of papers stacked up. In fact, you could hear the rustle of the paper, and nobody said I did anything wrong other than the fake news, which of course is Fox too.
Yep, that's where we are. The fake news is now everybody, literally everybody. Liberal scholars, conservative scholars, people who work for President Biden, people who worked loyally and faithfully for Donald Trump. The fake news is Fox News as well. Anybody who criticizes this man, anybody who intends to hold him accountable is fake news in his mind. This man is a cultist. He's a deranged, stupid, profoundly corrupt cultist, and the legal case against him is not looking great. Now, again, he has a sympathetic presiding judge, so we don't know what will happen. But right now, the facts as they are, as far as the public is concerned, the merits of the case are overwhelming against Donald Trump. Legally, at this point, he's screwed. And it's hilarious to see, again, his cultists in the Republican Party and conservative thought leaders just rage impotently in despair over the fact that their leader is objectively, morally, cognitively, and intellectually inferior to the leader of the Democratic Party, Joe Biden. And if you're a MAGA cultist watching, again, your tears are delicious.